So I want to start very basically and say, when I read around food, I see there are strong linkages between money and food. And there may be some of you in the room that would not appreciate it. But money is power. And I almost hear too much power in the food discussion. Just an observation. I hear that it's a commodity, and I can make money out of it, and I can become rich and powerful. So that's on the one hand. I also hear this morning a lot have been said about change. Well, I'm comfortable in sharing with you that I don't embrace the notion of change because I don't see it. As a psychologist, I often say to people, if you catch somebody who's changed, if you identify somebody who's changed, please catch them, because I would love to work with that specimen. I haven't seen people that have changed. I've seen people who tried to change, but we don't change. We develop, we become, but we don't change. I can't be this and then change to that. Just a comment. The next thing I was interested in seeing is I also heard quite a lot, and I read even broadly than this engagement this morning, that there's a lot being said about the design of complex systems in the food industry. Complex systems. And I wonder to what extent are we able to engage meaningfully with these complex systems. If we hear what a colleague said this morning about the brain's capacity to only have 2 hours of conscious thought capacity, I just wonder, what are all these complicated systems do that we've designed and then we so easily just implement? We just roll it out. It's almost if I sense we roll it over the people and say, you will align, you will comply. My comment would be, good luck. I also hear comments around or referring to a we culture in some cases and an I culture. And I want to tease you as we go forward in this discussion whether you have really clarified in your own mind whether you are ready for a we culture and what the benefits could be, and whether you're ready for an I culture and what those benefits could be. So I want to start with an exercise. I would want you on a piece of paper, I want you on a piece of paper to draw 9 dots. And if the people at the back can just say if they see me, I'll move this now. I literally want you to do this. This is a very old exercise. Can I just get it there? So I want you to jot down 3 rows, 3 rows, 3 rows, so that you've got 9 dots. And I want to ask you a very simple thing. I want you to use 4 straight lines to connect all 9 dots without picking up your hand. Jennings? 4 straight lines, all 9 dots without picking up your hand. 4 straight lines, connecting all 9 dots without picking up your hand. Well, that's a complicated system that I've designed. Can't you get it? Just do it. All right, so what do I see is happening here? Your brain is telling me a story. Because when I look around the room, I see, is there anybody that want to give the answer? 4 lines, 9 dots. You got it. So when I look around the room, so maybe can I ask you to do it for us? So she's got it. So I wanted to do it, and then I want you to see, I want to ask you before she gives us the answer, what are you experiencing right now before you see what she's going to do? Jennings, what are you experiencing? Sorry? Much easy. It's not easy. So is it frustrating you? Well, why is it not frustrating her? Could you give us the answer, please? Just make it quite clear. Great. No. That's not quite the answer. Beautiful. Thanks, Amal. So there's the answer. So what has she done, if I can just add here? She has collected a dot, which I didn't refer to. But nobody said you couldn't. She connected to another dot which doesn't exist, and she collected another dot that doesn't exist. Now, if you look at this, how many dots can your brain immediately see are there actually, apart from the 9 and the 3 that she's indicated? How many dots does your brain see immediately? Almost? 12. Is it from here? What's your name? Krishna. So she sees 12. So let's get the 12. So here's the 4th one, 5th one, 6th one. Here's the, you see where I'm now, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I want to create this as a context. If we want to talk about culture and leadership, then I want to give you this, and if we only do this today, then that's fine for me. We are born into reality where we are often told that the 9 dots is reality. You tell your kids, don't. The school says, definitely don't, I'll punish you. And then you get to the company, and there's work performance outputs. And it says, actually not don't, it says you will comply. Is it therefore any surprise, Jennings, that your brain struggles to see the dots? No, you are mesmerized, as many people are, that there are only 9 dots in reality. Well, in my world, there is not 9. There is at least 12. And if we really spend time on reality, there will be many more than this 12. So the question is, are you connecting the dots? Then you will only get to 9. And if you want to continue doing it, be my guest. You're used to it. That's okay. But please don't expect to have fun or to have excitement or to make a contribution or to be rewarded or to do anything magical or transformatory. You will not have the skill to do that and create that culture. If you, however, want to look at 9 plus at least 12, and thereby not connecting the dots anymore, but collecting the dots, then you will be transformative in nature. You will challenge. You will make decisions. You will leave your company if it's backward. You will change the way you engage, or the rule. You'll change the rules of engagement. So you create a different reality. Now you may ask, against this background, how are we now going to talk to leadership? And I thought I want to tease you with something more, if I can get my slides, or must I press the buttons? Okay. Let's see where we go. So I want to talk a bit about the importance of leaders in shaping organization cultures. I gave you this as a backdrop. You can decide today, are you working in a 9 or a 9 plus 12 environment? Your choice. Both of them can have leaders, but what is the type of leader that we get? So the first thing I want to say, to move just a moment away from that, are you in your mind having discussions around the following megatrends? So you and I are sitting here today, and you are creating complicated systems, but potentially to be quality assured, etc., etc. But are you even in the food industry aware of the debate that's happening around us? The first one is around digitization. Are you aware what is the impact on all spheres of life? We don't necessarily just music, but it's logistics, banking, healthcare, agriculture, and food, for that matter, included in agriculture. It's all about the algorithm and the androrhythm. Now, the algorithm is the number, 1 plus 1 is 2. And the androrhythm is about the people, the humanness of the engagement. Digitization is not just about numbers. It's also about feelings. I could let you involve in a counseling session with a robot, digitally, which will be more empathetic than which your own psychologist could be, probably. Because if the psychologist had a bad day, there's less empathy. But from a digital perspective, the robot has got no context that influences his mind or his feelings. Mobilization. The technology is moving closer to us, as we all hopefully experience. I can't see this. It's moving closer to us. We had a desktop, we had our hand in our wrist, it's in our face. We've got artificial intelligence, we've got virtual reality, and important, we've got brain-computer interfaces. You're going to get digits behind people's ears that will link them digitally to other things. You may say, what has this to do with food security? Well, there are people working in that business that may incline to be more mobilized. There's screenifications. We had interface revolutions from screen to telephone telephone calls to video calls. And there may be other things that will be coming up. We've got disintermediation, which I think is important to cut out the middleman. How many of you in the food production system are intermediaries? In the food production system, there's a lot of intermediaries. I wonder what's going to happen if the people who produce the food, the farmers, decide that they don't need the intermediaries because they've developed the skill to do it themselves. What will happen? Any idea, sir? You worried about that? You are worried about it. Well, the farmers, especially the young and upcoming farmers, if you engage with the African Farmers Association of South Africa, they're facilitating a new breed of farmers. People who will not take the intermediaries as a reality for the future. They may become food producers themselves, not just in the basic food, but in all the value-added products that develop from that basic product. Robotization, where everything is converging into some spectacular creation. It looks sad to see Sam working at that bench. Well, you will get robots who will do Sam's work, who will not get bored, and who will follow exactly what is expected of Sam the robot to be done. Oh man. Then we get transformation, becoming something else or becoming beyond change and innovation from a car manufacturer to a mobile manufacturer. So we're seeing it already happening in some related industries. They started as car manufacturers, but Tesla doesn't see themselves as a car manufacturer. They call themselves a mobile manufacturer. Are you going to be called a food production manufacturer of some kind 50 years from here? Most probably not. But what will it be? Are you considering that there's a possibility of transformation within your context that would look totally different than what it looks today? You can only do that if you can see the 12 dots. But you definitely can. Intelligization from being disconnected to being connected via sensor networks and global devices. AlphaGo is probably the most known self-computer. There was this tricky game of Chinese Go, and people can't play that game really. It's very difficult. You can't get people really who master that game. But Go masters it because he understands the surroundings and take the correct course of action to solve a problem. We don't need to worry about people making mistakes. Because from an intelligization point of view, there will be a Go that will solve those problems. Automation linked to hyper-efficiency by replacing humans with machines. I think I referred to that. Virtualization, creating digital version of everything possible, moving from routers to hosting data in the cloud via software-defined networks, SDNs. I think you're already exposed to that. And then the last one, anticipation, where you get computers anticipating what will happen. You can now go to New York, to Citibank, and when you come to the reception, there's a bot saying, "Good morning, Francois. How was your flight from South Africa?" And the bot will go down the passage and say to Mr. Corgan, Francois from South Africa is here. Do you want tea? What would you drink? So just to close off on this, what happens to your mind if you hear this as the potential 12 dots surrounding you? What does that do to your mind in your space that you're operating in? Bekasisa? Or do you think that's for the future generation? Not for you.
What does it do to my mind? Yes. I think it basically changes the way I view things going forward, and mainly trying to introduce, most of these so that at least we are in line with, the new developments, I think.
So my question would be, why do we need to talk about it? Why do I need to tell you about it? Why don't we just talk about this? Because it's there. Because the possibilities mostly, if we go back home tonight, will we make a comment in the passing and say, well, I heard this weird guy talking about some nonsense about the future? Or will we really say, as you're saying, how will it reorientate me as a prospective leader of taking food culture into a next level? I wonder. So I gave these as backgrounds, and now I want to discuss 3 conceptual models, and then I'll let you free. The one is, if we want to talk leadership, there's a basic frame that I subscribe to, if you wish, and that is that we were created as humans with a brain, and I can't get this thing working, with a brain of which implies that every one of us had the capacity to experience what is happening around us. You making a movie in your mind right now, you're experiencing me, and some would say, can he please just stop talking? And the other one would say, well, when do we have food? And some of you may say, man, he's a great guy. But you're all making a movie, unknowingly. What do you do with that experience? Ideally, you should make a reflective observation of that experience. And some of you should say, he's talking nonsense, and some of you should say, he's brilliant, and some of you should say, whatever you want to do. But your brain should be able to make an observation of what you're experiencing. You can't just tell me there's nothing happening to you. I often see it in my lectures. If you ask a student a question, the first one that many do is, I don't know. What is that telling me? That person is preventing his or her brain to make an observation of what they just experienced. If you want to do it, that's fine. You'll be stuck to the 9 dots. But if you want to go into the 12 dots and you do the reflective observation, you will see more than what the other one can see. If you go one step further and you do an abstract concept about what you've been observing, of what you've been experiencing, now you bring it into your own brain and say, what is my concept of what I've observed about listeriosis, as an example? And ideally, we should get multiple concepts about listeriosis. Not the voice. Not what the official Nestle have said. What have my brain interpreted? And ideally, you should take your concept to the last stage, which is active experimentation. Do something about it. Write an article, make a phone call, talk to colleagues, change the system, inform the process, be an influencer. So my question would be, are you already combining all 4 of those things within your own brain capacity? Rose? Are you reflecting? Are you conceptualizing? Are you active experimenting? Does that make you a leader? All right, so can I ask you, what is your view about listeriosis?
My view about listeriosis is to have a food safety at a clean environment.
Okay, food safety at clean environment. What is your view on listeriosis, if I may, Lisa?
I don't know. I think it's. I think it's really just as you say. I mean, we're all talking about systems. We're all talking about culture. We're all talking about a lot of things, and I think it's really about involving players in the whole organization. It's not just a leadership's responsibility. It's not the quality's responsibility. I think it's an entire team's responsibility, and together we can control it or manage it.
And I love that idea. So do you think the people who were involved in that first initial engagements, did they reflect on what was happening around them? The people who were actually producing that food at that time. Were they reflecting? Were they sensing? Were they actively doing something about it? No, they weren't. And therefore we had to wait for somebody who could come eventually and do this cycle. And said, okay, let us look systemically at what's happening here. Let's make an observation. Let's reflect. Let's sense. And let's active experiment. And then, what did we do then? Now, one of the things we did, or could do, let me just talk tentatively, you could make new rules. Does that change anything in the long run? No. No. If you just do that, you have not activated the leadership within every individual. It should actually be the people who created that food, who must almost now in reflection say, you know what? I now recall, this is what I sensed one day, but I ignored it. What are we doing to create this culture of being in the now, as opposed to saying, I'm just experiencing something? So what the research has indicated, you get different people developing here from a brain or style. You get people who don't reflect and who don't conceptualize. All that they do is they say, I'm experiencing something and I will do some action on it. I follow my gut. But I don't think about it. And I don't form a reflection on it. So we must be aware, the research indicated to us that in each of these 4 areas, you can develop a style or a style or a style or a style. But the ideal is that you and I should allow our brain to have a full circle experience. I'm observing, I'm conceptualizing, and I'm actively experimenting. If you don't, then please be brave enough to accept that you choose not to be a leader. That you choose to follow instruction. That you choose to be compliant. Those are not characteristics of people who take a leadership role. If I go to the next slide, if we look at the world, take your context of food reality, the reality is that we can have different ways of looking at the same thing. I can look at my work environment as a known environment, where everything is categorized, where I've created a process for everything, and I just follow the rules. I open the door in the morning, I count out 10 units, I tick the box, and I'm in charge. I can move to the upper one where it's a knowable reality, where at least I experience that things are more complicated. I don't categorize now, I analyze things, and I look at the system. And I say, now I'm in charge. If you follow any one of these two things, you are making the assumption that you are in control. You are in control of the reality that you operate in. And just try again. There we go. If you work in these two, you say it's an ordered reality, I'm in control. Now again, I want to say good luck with you. In my life, I can't see that. I struggle to see that as a workable solution in the long run. But you could look at that same reality as complex. And you probe, and by probing, there's the emergence of new understanding and new reality. There's the engagement with people. And if you go to the next one, and you look at things not to be too serious, but chaotic in a positive way, and you just add energy to the system, then you are assuming that the world is a place of unorder also. Now the ideal is that we should, as true leaders, creating cultures of leadership, not embrace that one, or that one, or that one, or that one, but that we shall embrace all of them at the same time. Talk about brain capacity. Your brain can embrace what is known, knowable, complex, and chaotic at the same point. I can look at this audience and see all 4 of those pieces playing out. If we can allow ourselves to integrate them, we will prevent the creation of disorder. Because disorder happens, let's take the known example. If I put too much energy here, it goes bigger and bigger and bigger, and it overruns the other 3. The moment that happens, you create disorder. So let me ask this to you as an audience, Antoinette. Is there disorder in the food industry? No, I'm asking. Is there disorder? Is there order? Is there unorder? What is there? What do you sense? Just give it to us.
I probably think there's some disorder. I think the focus is not at the right place at this stage, and we've still got a lot of growing and learning to do to get it more things in place.
Okay, that's powerful. So what you are therefore saying is the converse, there is a focus, but it's not necessarily in the right place. And maybe that focus is too much, takes too much space, and it creates an imbalance. But help me, what do you sense, where is that focus, Sina? Is it in the focus that she may refer to? That's maybe in the wrong place. We're just playing a bit. In which one of those 4 areas do you think could it be in the food industry? Is it because we categorize too much, because we analyze too much, because we probe too much, or we just put too much energy in the system?
I think we are complicating a lot of things. Our systems, we are using a lot of complicated systems that end up, confusing a lot of people.
I'm glad I'm not the only confused one. So there's a lot of complicatedness, so potentially we are in this analysis thing. And we're so busy analyzing, creating more system and more systems, but we're not moving forward. So the potential is that analysis of complicatedness actually overrides all of the other 3 energies. Please do something about it. But don't just stay there. You have other options. Your brain can see the 12 dots if you allow yourself and open yourself to it. Just a short one. No, I'm not going to go there because our time is almost up. So if I go to the next slide, can I just ask for a moment by show of hands, if I may, Linda, in this category, this one, can I get by a show of hands, whom of you experienced that at work? Where everything is categorized, there's a rule for everything, there's compliance, we follow the rules. Few hands. Whom of you are working in the analysis space, where there's a lot of systems? There are a little bit more. Whom of you are working in the probing space, where things are open-ended, you ask questions, you don't make assumptions? There's a bit of that. And whom of you in the chaotic space? Putting positive energy, innovating all the time. Can I ask you this? Who of you are using business lounges? Do you know what it is? Some say yes, some say no. You know what it is. Did you say yes? Yes. Yeah. Okay, so business lounges. So how do you think, in what quadrant do you think was business lounges created? How did the idea of creating a 3rd stream of income develop? From which of those 4 quadrants do you think did it come? Jennings? Positive energy. Well spotted. So the American Airlines had a problem. They said, we need more money. The next day, 5 employees weirdly came dressed up as a camera crew. What are you doing? You know those 60s camera crews with the light and all that stuff, like in the movies? And they went out, and all that they asked, give us the names of the people in the first class of the next arrival of the local airline. And they waited in the receiving hall. And all that they did is, they said, good morning, sorry, I can't see your name. Good morning, Deborah. What brings you to Joburg?
Business.
And Deborah started talking. And what did they realize in the first few discussions they had with these people? They liked to be talked to. So it seemed people who have got money actually liked to be talked to. People are important and have got power to buy a first-class ticket. Talk to me. I'm coming to Johannesburg. I feel important. And what did they do? They created business lounges. Today, business lounges is a business model created all over the world. It did not start in an R&D department. So my comment would be, how much of your development work is in your R&D department or outsourced to R&D individuals at universities? Why aren't you going into that chaotic space and trust your people and let them bring you ideas? Just tonight, just a consideration. Okay? Okay, the last slide, just a few more. So from a leadership perspective, we looked at the 9 dots, we said there's 12. From that complex system that I showed you, we said there's order, unorder, and disorder. And the ideal is that we should, as leaders, combine all 4 of those quadrants. Now, let me share this. If you don't do it, you get this configuration. There's a leader in the middle that tells the other people, and they coordinate the activity. Bear me. Who's currently in the center of the food production system in South Africa? Anyone wants to try? Linda? Yeah, who's dictating? Is there anybody dictating? The retailers. Who's making the rules? So I wonder, why do they allow the retailers to sit here? But if you allow it, that means you're saying, I don't mind that somebody who's very known space, remember that known space? And who tells you how to do things, I don't mind them telling me. I'll just follow. Who makes the compliance rules in this industry? Government. Is government playing this role with you? No. So they're not coordinating. Okay, I'm going to test that with you. So let's get to the next one first. So the next one is a more collaborative engagement where there is still somebody in the center, but they talk to each other. But the one pushes back and says, no, I don't agree, I agree, I don't agree. And because of that, the others also do the same, and you get a collaborative engagement. So if you say government is not coordinating, is it collaborative? Here and there. Here and there collaborative. So if it's here and there collaborate, what is it the other times? It's coordinating. So it seems to me there's some sense they may be there or they may be there. But guys, that's not the ideal. If you want to be a 9 plus 12, if you want to be playing the full capacity of what your brain has to offer, you will go there. Where there's nobody in the center that holds the rule. Why? Because now government sits there and the retailer sits there and you sit there. And you all have an interest of giving and making a contribution. Not telling, not directing, not being powerful or seemingly powerful and holding a rule book, but everybody sitting in a circle as a network of knowledge workers. If we look at this model, people struggle with this. People say to me, Ben, this is ideal. So why can't we get closer to the ideal? Why do we have to embrace what was developed 300 years ago and started to develop in the 80s? We're in 2020 almost. Why do we get stuck here? As a last question. Ma'am? The lady with the beautiful...
Sorry, the lady with the scarf wasn't really listening there. Apologies. Thank you. So, okay, give me the question.
So why do we get stuck in the coordinate and collaborate and not go to cooperate? In this frame. Why do you think?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm lost.
Just allow your brain to do it. So why are we not enticed by the opportunity to be part of a network of knowledge workers? But why do we opt for the other two?
Maybe because we want to keep control.
Ooh.
The I.
The I.
Yeah.
Who wants to be controlled.
Or want to be controlled.
Because in the first two, you are controlled. And in the third one, you don't have any sense of control. Doesn't matter. There's a free flow of energy. So I want to leave you with that. If we really want to talk about leadership and the development of cultures, what I hope, not just in the food industry, but in all our industries, in human society going forward, taking note of all the mega trends that are lying ahead of us, that we could consider as modern people to become part of a network of knowledge workers. for which we've got a contribution to make and we've got dots to collect. Dots that in some cases only your brain can see. So the question to me that I want to leave you with, what is in your brain that you prevent me of having? Thanks a lot.